One, two, three, four.
Screen time, screen time, screen time, screen time.
It's my screen time too.
Screen time, screen time.
Hello and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where two moms sacrifice their recommended for you cues on all streaming platforms so other parents don't have to. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Katie.
And I have a 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old, and two 4.5-year-olds.
And I just have the one. He's 2 years old. Our kids are pretty adorable, aren't they, Deborah?
They are adorable.
Have yours done anything particularly adorable since our last chat?
Well, the school where my second grader goes had a fall festival, and they had some carnival rides, and I can't believe this, but my 4-year-olds are big enough to ride a ride called the Tornado.
Whoa!
But I can't go on rides anymore. So a mom friend of mine took my kids on the ride, and I watched her 4-year-old who was too
Short.
not ready for it.
Oh, okay.
And they spent the whole time yelling, Tony, that's my second grader, Tony, we can do the tornado.
That's adorable. But I have to ask, why can't you ride rides anymore?
I had vertigo
Oh, no.
last year, and so I can barely even look at rides.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the thing that stuck with you. I mean, I should have paid attention to what Alfred Hitchcock was telling me, but...
Yeah, this is a diversion, but I went on a water park slide that was kind of twisty and turny last winter, and then the next day I just fell down a couple times. I just fell down. So I can't do anything that spins anymore.
So, where does... I've obviously never had vertigo. Where does it come from? How do you get it?
It's like your inner ear gets out of whack. I don't know. I'm lucky because mine just resolved in a day, but it can stick with you for a long time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had that excuse for carnival rides.
You can say you do.
Well, they just make me motion sick, which I feel like everybody just rolls their eyes at that excuse, but everybody's going to roll their eyes until you vomit on them.
Right. So how about Jay? Any cute stuff this week?
Well, we took a mother-son trip to New York to visit a mutual friend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And all things considered, it went pretty well, but there was one particularly funny moment where our wonderful host drove us out to see this beautiful waterfall. And, I had just kind of forgotten what the Northeast was like in the fall and how beautiful literally everything is. So,
Right.
so they took us to see this beautiful waterfall. The kids were in a good mood. And as we were walking to the waterfall, we came across a slug on the path. And that was all Jay wanted to do. All he wanted to do was look at the slug. He paid a fraction of a % of attention to the beautiful waterfall. And now that's all he remembers about the trip is Mr. Slug.
That is classic.
How is the no screen time during the week going?
It's okay. Yesterday, nobody even asked for screen time.
Wow.
Usually they do, and I shoot it down, and I say they can keep asking, but we're still not having it. So we've been, on Fridays, they can have some screen time, and on the weekends, but so far it's going well.
Wow. I remain super impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Well, no real changes to screen time here. Other than the fact that on our trip to New York, I somehow gave myself a stress fracture in my foot.
Oh, shoot.
So I'm supposed to wear this boot, and they stupidly tell you, oh, well, the only real cure is to rest it, which is just not something that exists when you have a 2-year-old. So we have been watching a little bit more screen time lately.
I think that's fine.
The indignities of getting old.
True.
Well, should we move on to sunnier topics?
Bolt. That's the movie we watched.
I thought you were just shouting random words.
Get out of here. Run. Scram. I could go on.
For this episode, we watched the 2008 Disney movie Bolt. Why don't you tell us about it, Deborah?
Bolt is a film starring John Travolta and Miley Cyrus, and it's about a puppy who stars in a television show where his owner, Penny, has a dad who has super enhanced Bolt, and then the dad was kidnapped or held hostage by some criminal mastermind, evil scientist types. One of them has like one evil green eye. And that's where you think it's going. And then it's revealed that Penny and Bolt are actors in this series. But to maintain the integrity of the drama on the show, the entire production crew, director, other actors let Bolt think that that is his life, a la Jim Carrey in The Truman Show. And he ends up escaping by accident the soundstage where the show is taped, and he's separated, and he runs into a cat and like a guinea pig named Rhino, who kind of convince him that he's not really a superhero, and they help him get all the way from New York City back to Los Angeles so that he can find Penny.
So why did we pick it?
It shows up on our cable box whenever we're searching for a kids movie, and my kids really wanted to watch it for a long time. So that's how it got on my radar.
Yeah, and when you mentioned it, I was just surprised that it was not on my radar at all, because I consider myself quite a fan of Disney animation, and yet I had completely forgotten this existed. So I was super interested to watch it.
Yeah, 2008 was pre-kids for both of us. So was it in the theater?
It must have been. Because I remember, because The Princess and the Frog came out the year later, and I remember seeing that one in the theater.
Okay.
What are your feelings about Disney? Are you a Disney fan? Are you a Disney person? Do you see all the Disney movies?
I am definitely a Disney fan now that I have kids. I didn't think much about Disney or think much of Disney prior to having kids. And since having kids and watching a lot of Disney films, both vintage and more recent, I am a big fan. I think they're wonderful artists, musicians, film creators. I love them. Maybe not quite as much as Pixar, but...
Well, now they're all run by the same dude.
True.
Which is maybe why they're all sort of rising to a better level.
Yeah.
Do you, because I Wikipedia the list of Disney animation studios films, and I looked through just to see what the ones were that I thought were, really good ones, favorites of mine, just to sort of do some soul searching and figure out where Bolt fit. It seems, even though I wouldn't have told you I was a fan of Disney princesses, but if I look back at the list, 70% of my favorites are actually princess movies.
Agreed. Yeah.
Makes me feel like a bad feminist.
I know. I feel like for a time we were taught that in order to be a forward-thinking woman that you had to eschew that whole princess industrial complex. And I think there is space for women, or there should be a space for women to be girly and also be feminists. And I definitely think in the last 10 to 12 to possibly 15 years, there have been a bunch of princess movies where, we've talked about Moana before and Frozen. It's possible to be a princess and be an independent person and not have to be rescued by Prince Charming, like
Yeah.
some of the older princess movies.
They are definitely trying to step up the female empowerment angle, and I do appreciate that.
Hmm.
But all that to say that maybe that was why Bolt just kind of stayed under my radar. Like,
And it's not a musical. Like,
right.
it has a decent soundtrack and there is a lovely, lovely Jenny Lewis tune in it. But I feel like the Disney films where there's a soundtrack to sell along with the movie and the merchandise, it's just a bigger cultural phenomenon.
That is such a good point, and I didn't even put that together in my head, but I love musicals, and
Right.
there's a reason why I will never think Wreck-It Ralph and Big Hero 6 are as good as Moana and Tangled.
Right.
So maybe we should talk about our general thoughts about the plot?
Yeah, the plot, I was surprised by how much I liked it and was kind of captured by it. It's really meta and postmodern and tricky. Like, how did they sell that as a kids movie premise?
Well, apparently they didn't sell it very well because I didn't realize it existed.
True, true.
But you were spot on when you said it was the Truman Show for a dog.
Right.
I guess I found it a little bit harder to suspend my disbelief, and I couldn't stop thinking logistically how what was presumably a network TV series could have the money to make all of these effects so seamless. Like, there's this one action shot where Bolt is running super fast down a street and like towing Penny on a scooter, and they're like snaking between all this moving traffic. And I mean, there's no way that would ever have been done without effects.
Right. It was like a Fast and Furious segment.
Yeah.
I mean, which I reference a lot on this podcast because that's like the only action movie and I haven't even seen it, but
It? You mean them?
Them, yeah.
I think if you did like a word cloud of the other movies that get referenced in our podcast, it would probably be Fast and Furious and Moana would be right up there.
Yeah.
It also really bugged me that apparently Penny's parents bought Bolt for her with the idea that they would be an acting duo together when she was a child, like a younger child.
Oh, is that what that first scene was?
Yeah, it seems like that is a whole next level stage mom.
That is. Okay, so the first scene, for people who haven't watched it, it's just like an adorable little girl picking out an even more adorable little puppy in a pet store, and it just looks like this sunny little scene. And then they transition to the show, and like the colors get dark, like almost sepia toned, and you know that something else is going on. I guess I didn't pick up on the fact that Penny's mom was such a dance mom, stage mom.
Well, it's funny because we meet Penny's mom and she seems, fine and loving, but in the back of my head, I'm just like, whoa, this is some crazy exploitation, lady.
Yeah, totally, totally.
But I guess maybe we should go top level.
Yes, I thought it was very clever, especially for something that predated the Lego movie.
Like nothing else is allowed to be self-referential before that.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. And I haven't been watching kids shows for that long, I guess. But the Lego movie, to me, was self-conscious in a way that other kids movies haven't been to me. And this predated that by more than a decade, I think. Or around a decade.
Yes. But it lacked the sense of humor about itself, certainly.
But there were funny characters, like when Bolt lands in like Central Park in New York and he meets a trio of pigeons who are like trying to figure out why he looks familiar. And then there are all these city buses that pass by that have like Bolt's head, and like it's a huge bus wrapped advertisement for Bolt, and they're just like, I don't know where I know you from. I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah, I will grant you that. I kind of liked the action sequences from the show better than the rest of the movie.
I think we had opposite reactions. Like, I
Huh.
think I really liked the story of Bolt finding Penny, and I could take or leave the show. So you would actually, what was the show called that Bolt was on?
I think it was
Was
called
it
Bolt.
Bolt? So you would actually watch that show.
No, I think I just enjoyed the way it was filmed so much like a real action movie that
Got it.
it's just not something you usually see in a cartoon. It just seemed like there was a lot of attention to detail in, I don't know, the directing. What do you call it in an animated film? Like the way the shots were framed?
And then you get to see the producers and directors like on the cutting room floor, like screaming at each other because there's a boom
That was
in the
funny.
frame. And it's not that they're mad that there's a boom in the frame, it's because the dog could see it and realize that he's on a show. Like, that's why they're mad.
Yeah, I did like that sort of like Hunger Games control room behind the
Yeah.
scenes. As a Midwesterner, are you at all bothered by movies that treat the entire middle of the country as just like a, I don't know, a place to travel through to get to the coast?
No, not really, but I am bothered by movies that are set in Minnesota that have actors not from Minnesota do a Minnesotan accent. I can't stand those movies or shows. Fargo, I'm looking at you. The show, not the movie.
what
I can't
about
watch it.
what about Drop Dead Gorgeous? Does that mean that you hate Drop
Can't
Dead Gorgeous?
watch it. Terrible. It's terrible. The accents are not like they're not even close.
I love that movie. Oh, that makes me so sad.
You can I understand. Other people can overlook it, but I can't.
Wow.
Kirstie Alley. How about you? Are you because you've lived in the Midwest and in New York City. So, what's your feeling?
I think in general I am pretty bothered by the way the middle of the country is thought of and portrayed by people on either coast. That's not to say that it's never well intentioned. It's just either condescending or dismissive, which is
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. I guess I have the double whammy of being from the Midwest and now living in the South, and I feel like those are both areas that definitely get yeah.
Much maligned.
Yes.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Speaking of areas of the country, this is just a funny little nitpick moment. But so at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, Bolt finds Penny and they realize that it's wrong for him to continue living a lie. So Penny quits the television show, and Penny, her mom, and Bolt, and the cat, and presumably the hamster, move to the country slash what kind of looks like a farm. What are they
Mm-hmm.
doing? Are they farmers now?
I didn't put that much thought into it.
I was like,
But
you're living
are they
way out
just
in the country. How are you making a living?
well, can't they just live on royalties or is that what you call
Oh, maybe.
residuals?
Do you
What
think do you think Bolt made it through enough episodes to get to syndication? What is it, like 100 episodes or something?
There were a lot of people on the cutting room floor. I think it was a big show.
All right, all right.
I think they might have been, well, maybe they dipped into Penny's college fund to make that move. We didn't talk about because we we just watched Paw Patrol and the whole cat versus dog.
Yes. Oh, and I even had it written down. Okay, tell me your thoughts.
So the cats on the show, Bolt, of course, are self-aware enough to realize that they are actors on a television series, and they know that Bolt is supposed to believe that he is his role, and they are the reason that he accidentally escapes from his trailer because they lure him out because they're assholes. And that I thought was the perfect dog v cat portrayal
No, of course
of
the
all
cats
time.
are assholes. And of course, within the world of the show, the cats are actually evil. We need to look into doing a show that is actually all about cats. Oh, I guess the cat world has Daniel Tiger. He's pretty benign.
Aristocats, and there's some mean, racistly portrayed Siamese cats in that picture.
Wait, isn't
Yeah.
that Lady and the Tramp?
Oh shoot, I'm mixing up my Disney
movies?
felines.
The Siamese cat song is from Lady and the Tramp.
Okay. Garfield. There's Garfield.
Ugh, please don't hold Garfield up as some kind of example. What did you think about Mr. Travolta in the starring role?
You know, if it hadn't been like one of the first things that you read about Bolt, either in the tiny cable synopsis or on Wikipedia or anything, I don't think I would have recognized his voice. And usually I'm pretty good at recognizing voices of actors. And I realized that he has kind of a bland voice. I thought he was fine, but I didn't think it was great.
Mm-hmm.
He was no Louis C.K. in Secret Life of Pets.
Ugh. See, this is just it might be a weird thing for me, but like when you're casting two recognizable stars as like the leads in an animated film,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of relying on the audience knowing who these actors are,
Mm-hmm.
it just bugs me when they don't make them of an age. Like
Mm.
and it's not like the pairing between Bolt and Mittens the cat was a romantic pairing, but like I don't know, it felt like they should have at least been peers. And I couldn't get
Mm-hmm.
the fact that Miley Cyrus was a teenager or maybe an early 20 something, but I think a teenager, and John Travolta was, in his 50s or however old he is.
Yeah, back in 2008, that was like before John Travolta's like Scientology sex scandal, right?
I don't even know about it.
And it was also before Miley Cyrus, like her Bangers tour. She was still like a Disney.
Yeah.
Well, was she on that show of hers?
Was that still going
What was
in
that
2008?
called?
Hannah Montana.
Yeah, was she still Hannah Montana? I think she was.
Wow. This
Or
was
maybe,
a long time ago, almost 10 years. Yeah.
yeah, don't take my word for it.
But yeah, weirdly, that bothers me. Like, if it's going to be a buddy picture, I want the people doing the voice acting to believably be able to be buddies. Is that weird?
Yeah, I don't think it's weird. I think it's maybe not possible all the time. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, your mouth is saying, no, that's not weird, but your eyes are saying, how do I say this nicely? That's super weird, Katie. Let it go.
So did anybody else stand out to you? I had to look up, so Penny's agent's voice was recognizable to me, and he was played by Greg German from Ally McBeal.
Yeah, his voice was familiar.
And then Penny's mom was played by Gray Delisle, who is, according to IMDb, she's primarily a voice actor. And she's also been in some other shows that we've watched for this podcast, like Elena of Avalor and the DC Superhero Girls.
Oh.
I thought they were well cast.
Did you have any thoughts on the animation style of the show?
I think you had more thoughts than I did.
I was really genuinely impressed by the action sequences.
They were good. And then the guinea pig. So the guinea pig named Rhino was a hilarious character, I thought. And he is in one of those plastic balls that you can buy for a guinea pig if you have a guinea pig as a pet, so that you can like run around your house, but they're still contained.
So they're not pooping everywhere.
Is that the reason for it?
I just assumed, yeah.
Okay. So that was funny. He was always in that little bubble, and then at one point he like fogged up the bubble and then drew like wiped out little eye holes for himself and then a smiley face. That was funny.
I also
I laughed out loud.
when a door was, door was coming down from above and he like just rolled under it at the last minute and he was like holding it up with his little guinea pig arms, but it was really the ball that was holding it up. Yes, Rhino, we haven't said enough about Rhino. He was a great sidekick. The primary relationship was between Bolt and Mittens, and Mittens, the streetwise cat, like learned to need people. And she taught Bolt how being just a regular dog could be great. But then they had this wonderful sidekick, Rhino, who was there for comic relief, and he was very adorable. Did you find yourself comparing it to any adult movie or TV show?
Well, I mentioned The Truman Show. Also, Entourage a little bit, because it's about like an actor who kind of blurs the lines between fact and fiction and like fame and real life, and has this kind of motley group of friends who rally behind him. So that a little bit. Lassie. I feel like there's some obvious parallels to Lassie, because in the end, sorry to spoil it, guys, but Bolt, just the dog, rescues Penny from a fire in like on the soundstage. Not using, that's not part of the show, Bolt. He's like just being a dog.
He was a super dog all along.
Yeah.
Did you notice how much the show Bolt took from Inspector Gadget? Speaking of Penny.
No, that's a good observation.
Well, just that her name was Penny, and then the green-eyed man, the main villain, was always like sitting and petting his cat in a really menacing way, the same way that, was it Dr. Claw?
I think so.
Would always do on Inspector Gadget. Anyway.
Gosh, all I remember about Inspector Gadget is the theme song, which was good.
It was good.
I remember hardly anything about the show.
Well, it was Penny and her dog that were always they were always rescuing, but her dog's name was Brain, which I thought was an awesome dog name. So the movies and TV shows that it made me think of, the entire movie, not just the show within a show, were movies and TV shows where people think they're really good at something and then get proven wrong. So I thought of, strangely, the movie 21 Jump Street, where Channing Tatum was really popular in real high school, and then he goes back to pretend high school. And is totally awful at it. And then I thought of the most recent season of Gilmore Girls, where Rory realizes that she's actually a terrible journalist.
Oh, I haven't watched that. Is that the reboot? The much hyped
yes.
reboot? Oh, okay. I haven't seen that.
You don't need to. It's bad. I mean, I'm sure they'll make more, and maybe at a certain point, like just the critical mass of it will mean that you'll have to watch it, but for now, there's no reason to go back and watch it.
Okay.
So those were the two things that I thought of. Did you do any casting of a gritty HBO reboot?
Just a couple. So, like I said earlier, John Travolta was a unremarkable voice choice for the dog. So if I were casting it, I would cast Leslie Jones from Saturday Night Live.
Ooh.
I think her vocal range is, she could, just as a voice actor, her voice is like low enough, she could play a male or a female. It could go either way. And she could do like a gonzo performance of Bolt, I think.
And we could add a little bit more of that humor into it. I like it.
Yeah. And then pair her with Nathan Lane as Rhino the guinea pig.
Are you sure that's not just too much gonzo?
I'd watch it. How about you?
And
I would actually probably leave Miley Cyrus, but Miley Cyrus of like 3 years ago on the Bangers tour. That Miley Cyrus.
Oh man. Yeah, I would watch at least the first episode of this train wreck. So I was stuck on the Gilmore Girls, and so I thought that maybe Milo Ventimiglia. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's currently starring on This Is Us.
Okay.
Who I think is someone who is not very good at his job but keeps getting jobs. So it's kind of like one of those an actor playing himself shows.
Hmm.
So he goes home to his small hometown for whatever reason. Maybe he's nursing a sick parent or something. Um, and he can't get a part in the local production of Pirates of Penzance. So then he realizes that maybe his talents could be better spent elsewhere, like opening a bed and breakfast or something. And he is helped by his loyal sidekick, Rhino, played by Josh Gad. And Christina Ricci could play Mittens, because again, with the huge
Ooh,
eyes.
that would be good. Yeah.
I feel like Christina Ricci also gets name dropped. Put her in the word cloud with uh, Moana and Fast and Furious. So speaking of Moana, was it better when we were kids?
Well, Lassie was pretty available on Nick at Night
Yeah, back when
rerun
Nick and
time.
Knight played actually old television shows and not like Full
Well, it
House.
plays actually old television shows.
Hush, hush.
They just happen to be from our youth.
Oh
No.
man. Again, I looked at the full Disney animation list, and just from a
Uh-huh.
Disney perspective, before Tangled, I would have said yes, Disney movies were better when we were kids. But I'm totally on board with this renaissance, and I'm happy to think of Bolt as a part of that. Well, if not totally happy about it, I will give it a shrug.
Did you ever watch Old Yeller as a child?
Um, no. I think I get it confused in my head with Where the Red Fern Grows.
Oh, they're both sad.
Yeah, and they're both
Yeah.
about dogs dying, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that it was not better when we were kids.
The
Because
available movies about
now
dogs.
dog movies are either like funny or they're kind of like feel good movies. And dogs don't die in movies anymore.
What about Okay, so I've never actually seen the entirety of the movie Marley and Me, but I did once turn on like the last 15 minutes in which they put down the dog, and I still cried. Like I was
Is
not
that what
invested in the
happens
movie.
in Marley and Me? I've
Yeah.
never seen it.
It's like the story of the whole
Oh.
life of this dog.
Is Jennifer Aniston in that?
Mhm.
Is that for kids?
No, no. Well, I think
Okay.
I think it's a family movie.
Okay.
Would you ever watch Bolt alone voluntarily?
No, but you know what I would watch? I would watch like an animated short revolving around just Rhino. If it was made by like a French film team, the kind that like usually wins like an animated short at the Oscars, I'd watch that.
Yeah, it seems like it would kind of be. Remember when we talked about Teen Beach Movie and I said it was like a blunt instrument for happiness?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like an all Rhino short would have the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with
How
you.
about you?
I would not watch this alone voluntarily. There are several other Disney movies I would watch before this, and possibly some late 80s Amblin entertainment animated
Mm-hmm.
movies as well. An American Tail springs to mind. Definitely would choose that over this.
Oh my God, American Tail. I had piano sheet music to somewhere out there.
Of course you did.
And I would play and sing it, and it's like in a register. It's like in a register that's too high for my voice. So I would only play it like if nobody was listening.
Oh, that is adorable.
But I love that song.
So did every kid our age. So speaking of kids, should we do 10 seconds on whether this is good for our kids?
Sure. My 7, 4, and 4-year-olds liked it. A few of the parts were a little scary, but overall, I think it was fine. Yeah.
Agreed. Jay actually watched this one with me, and he did find some of the action sequences to be a little scary, but for the most part, he just didn't care. He didn't seem to connect with any of the characters the same way that he is connected with some other characters. Marshall, Rocky, Sky. Ratings?
I'd give it a 3.
I'm right there with you. For once, we're on the same page. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of It's My Screen Time Too. Please rate and review us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on Facebook to continue the conversation at facebook.com/myscreentime2. And that's also where you'll find out what we're covering in our next episode if you would like to watch along with us. You can tweet us with show or movie suggestions or general comments at myscreentime2. You can also email us at myscreentime2@gmail.com. It's My Screen Time 2 is produced by me, Katie Curler, and our theme music was composed and performed by Deborah and her adorable children. Tune in next time for more real talk about the movies and TV beloved by kids and tolerated by parents. Bye!
Bye.
Screen time too.
Yeah. I'm glad you added a producer credit.
Are you drinking whiskey?